On his way back from a convenience store, Subaru Natsuki suddenly finds himself in a different world, right in the middle of a marketplace. But he doesn't understand why. At first, he thinks he's the chosen hero of this new world, so he acts like one. In the streets, he meets Kataman, a vendor, and quickly realizes he can't read this world's language. The vendor offers him some appas, which are what they call apples here. When Subaru tries to pay with coins from his world, the vendor informs him they're foreign and asks for the local currency. Subaru admits he's broke, and this upsets the vendor. Subaru decides to seek more information about this world. However, he runs into trouble, like accidentally entering the girls' bathroom and getting a slap, wandering into the demi-humans inn and falling off a bridge, and encountering 3 thieves named Tun, Chin, and Kan who seem ready to rob him. But don't worry, a half-elf girl named Sadala comes to his rescue. Subaru doesn't know much about this new place, its history, geography, or language. Sadala, along with her friend Puck, introduces herself and helps Subaru. In return, Subaru wants to get back her stolen insignia, swiped by a thief named Felt. So, Subaru and Sadala set off to the loot house, where Felt was going to sell the insignia. But they discover Felt dead there, and things take a dark turn. Suddenly, they're both killed too, but something unusual happens. Subaru has this strange power called Return by Death. It takes him back to the moment he was talking to the fruit vendor. Subaru is still clueless about this power, so he decides to try again, heading to the loot house. This time, Subaru meets Felt and Rom and negotiates for the insignia. Things seem to be going well until a woman named Elsa, who killed Subaru in the first timeline, arrives. Subaru offers his cell phone with a valuable camera, which persuades Felt and Rom to agree. But then, Elsa kills everyone again after Subaru says he wants to return the insignia to its owner. Subaru responds once more and meets Sadala in the street, but it turns out her name, Sadala, is the same as the Jealous Witch, which is a big no-no in this world. That offends her, and things just keep getting more complicated for Subaru. Frustrated by being called the name of the Jealous Witch, Sadala storms off, leaving Subaru behind. He tries to prevent the theft of the insignia, but things take a dark turn as he's chased by Felt and ends up getting killed by the alley hoodlums. But after respawning once again, Subaru finally grasps his Return by Death power. This time, he decides not to meet Sadala and changes his strategy. Instead, he aims to buy the insignia from Felt before Elsa can intervene. On the way, Subaru faces the hoodlums in the alley, but a guy named Reinhard Banistria comes to his rescue. Subaru asks Reinhard to convey a message to Sadala, telling her not to go to the loot house. Subaru, determined, heads to the loot house and encounters Elsa. She notices his odd behavior, making things more intense. Later, Subaru finds Felt and shares what Rom had said about the phone's worth in the previous timeline. Rom checks the phone and confirms its value, but Felt insists on hearing Elsa's offer before selling the insignia due to Subaru's suspicious action. Just when Subaru is worried that Elsa is at the door, he's in for a surprise. Sadala appears, even though he thought he had told her not to come to the house. Things take a dangerous turn as Elsa shows up and starts attacking everyone. Sadala and Puck team up with their ice magic, gaining an advantage. However, Puck has to retreat into his mana crystal vessel since he can't stay in the physical world at night. Felt is told to run from the house. Rom is badly hurt, and Sadala is growing weary from her battle with Elsa. Just when things look grim, Reinhard arrives on the scene. Elsa introduces herself as a bowel hunter. Sadala tends to Rom's wounds while Reinhard keeps Elsa busy, using his Vanistria sword skills to try and defeat her. Elsa survives and goes after Sadala, but Subaru steps in, taking the hit for her with Rom's club. As a gesture of gratitude for saving her, Sadala reveals her real name, Emilia, just before Subaru collapses, realizing that he's been slashed by Elsa, who manages to escape. Felt returns the insignia to Emilia as a sign of thanks. Reinhard, at first, considers letting Felt go, but when he sees the insignia glittering in her hand, he changes his mind and takes her with him, stating he can't ignore her crime of stealing the insignia, even though he's off duty. He also warns Emilia that her peaceful life won't last and that she might be summoned soon. Subaru wakes up at Roswell Elmather's mansion, and he's all healed thanks to Emilia's help. While wandering through the mansion's halls, he meets Beatrice in the library. Unfortunately, she drains his mana, causing him to pass out. He then wakes up in his room, with the maid twins, Ram and Rem, by his side. He reunites with Emilia and Puck, and learns from Roswell that Emilia needs the insignia to qualify as a candidate for the upcoming royal election. As a reward for his help, Subaru asks to work as a butler in the mansion. Subaru starts his new job, working alongside Ram and Rem. But things aren't easy for him, and he struggles with his duties during his first days on the job. He also visits the local village with them to buy supplies and has some fun playing with children and a puppy. Unfortunately, the puppy bites his hand. That night, Subaru asks Emilia to go on a date to the village, and she agrees. However, when he wakes up the next morning, he finds himself back on the first day at the mansion, greeted by Ram and Rem. His hand is healed, making him realize that he must have died during that night. Subaru is reintroduced to Rem and Ram, trying to piece together how he died in the previous timeline. He attempts to recreate events that happened before, But it only works partially because there are new events he didn't experience previously, like Ram teaching him to read and write. While doing chores, Subaru and Ram's relationship deepens, which seems to bother Rem. During a shopping trip, Rem talks to Subaru about her intense dedication to her sister Ram, comparing it to a fanatical demon. She then asks Subaru about his thoughts on demons. As both Rem and Ram are occupied, Amelia steps in to teach Subaru how to read and write. He successfully asks her on a date to the village to see the children, the puppy, and the flower fields. That night, Subaru tries to stay awake, reflecting on his actions in this new timeline, realizing that he both fixed and missed certain events from the previous one. However, he dozes off and wakes up suddenly in the middle of the night, feeling terribly ill. As he stumbles through the mansion, an unseen assailant attacks him, leading to a brutal and fatal outcome. Subaru wakes up in his room for the third time, his injuries healed once more. Realizing he has 4 days before the attacker strikes again, he decides to play the role of a guest in Roswell's mansion. He seeks answers and asks Beatrice about magic that can weaken and kill. She suggests 2 possible causes: a curse, which she finds unlikely, or mana drainage, which she believes only she and Puck can perform within the mansion. Beatrice also reveals that she healed Subaru when he first arrived. During a conversation with Ram, Subaru shares a folktale about a blue demon who sacrifices his reputation to help a red demon. Ram and Subaru have differing interpretations of the story, with Subaru seeing it in a more positive light. Subaru mentions learning about the legends of the dragon, the kingdom, and the story of the jealous witch from their folktale books, but Ram refuses to discuss the latter. She advises Subaru not to share his demon story with Ram. On the 4th day, Subaru decides to leave the mansion and observe it from a nearby cliff. At sunset, he is suddenly attacked by a heavy spiked ball and chain. He manages to evade the first 2 strikes and seizes the chain, only to discover that the assailant is none other than Rem, which shocks him. Rem interrogates Subaru, convinced he's part of a faction against Amelia and even claiming he has the scent of a witch. The interrogation is brutal, but it's cut short when Ram, in a somewhat merciful act, kills Rem in the midst of it. Subaru resets once more in the mansion, now filled with fear. He tries to explain his return by death to Amelia, but as he starts speaking, a dark shadow with hands engulfs him. 2 days later, Beatrice also mentions his strong scent of the witch, but Subaru requests her assurance of safety for the 4th night, and she agrees. Subaru manages to survive the 4th night, but the next morning, he discovers Rem is dead, leaving Ram in deep grief. Ram suspects Subaru and attempts to attack him, but Beatrice protects him due to their contract. Fearing for his life, Subaru flees to a cliff, where Beatrice approaches him. She informs him that the maids are incomplete, with one missing, and offers to help him escape the territory. Ram also arrives at the cliff, vowing to kill Subaru, feeling that his own fear has led to Rem's tragedy. And driven by his affection for the mansion's inhabitants, Subaru makes a fateful decision. He jumps off the cliff, determined to save them all. Subaru resets back to the first day at the mansion and realizes the importance of building trust with the maid twins. He decides to work as a butler again to achieve this. During a break, Subaru asks Puck to teach him magic to combat the mysterious entity he believes to be a shaman. Puck examines Subaru's mana, revealing that his attribute is shadow. Subaru also learns about the ominous legend of the jealous witch, Sadala, and deduces that Amelia's intentions in the first timeline were to be excluded from the royal election. Subaru's magical training is a struggle, and he faces difficulties in using his powers. He continues his work as a butler, pushing himself both mentally and physically to gain the trust of the twin maids. At one point, he breaks down in tears, finding solace in Amelia's comforting presence as he lets out his emotion. That night, Subaru wakes up and consults Beatrice about detecting curses. He learns that curses must be activated through physical contact, leading him to conclude that the curse came from the village. The next day, Subaru goes back to work and persuades the twins to accompany him to the village. Subaru heads to the village with Ram and Rem to investigate the source of the curse, especially after being bitten by the puppy again. When they return, he notices that Roswell has left for the night, which hadn't occurred in previous timelines. Subaru encounters Beatrice, who confirms his cursed state and traces it back to the dog that bit him. Subaru realizes the danger to the children and returns to the village with Rem that night. They discover that the children are missing and venture into the forest, finding all but one of the missing kids, each of them bitten by the puppy. Rem begins healing the children while Subaru surprises her by acknowledging the scent of the witch that surrounds him. Subaru goes in search of the last child but gets attacked by a Maybas. He manages to defeat the creature, but a pack of them surrounds him, controlled by the demon puppy. Rem arrives and clears a path toward the village, but the Maybas overwhelm her. In a desperate move, Rem unleashes the inner demon within her and goes berserk. With Rem on the brink of being killed, Subaru steps in, determined to shield her from the attack. The next day, Subaru miraculously survives the attack due to Amelia and Rem's timely arrival. The village's protective barrier is restored, safeguarding it from further Maybast incursions. Unfortunately, Subaru is now afflicted by a web of curses from the puppy bites, and Beatrice can't remove all of them before they take effect. The villagers provide Subaru with a sword, and he, along with Ram, ventures into the forest. Their mission is to defeat the puppy controlling the Maybasts, lift the curses, and find Rem, who had gone mad during her attempt to confront the beasts. Subaru learns from Ram that she lacks a demon horn like Rem and is less powerful. Determined to find a solution, Subaru attempts to draw the Maybast closer by revealing the truth about his return by death. As Subaru and Ram are chased and cornered near a cliff, they face a pack of Maybasts and a berserk Rem. Using information provided by Ram, Subaru puts a plan into action to strike Rem's horn, aiming to bring her back to her senses. In the past, Ram and Rem lived in a demon village where the birth of twins was considered taboo. Ram was a prodigy while Rem struggled with life. Tragedy struck when Ram's horn was cut off by the witch cult, and Rem has been blaming herself ever since. Back in the present, Rem regains her senses after Subaru knocks her unconscious. Together, Subaru, Ram, and Rem flee from the pursuing Maybasts, only to encounter the puppy shaman responsible for the attack. In order for the twins to escape, Subaru decides to stay behind and confront the shaman, who has transformed into a fearsome beast. Subaru attempts to fight the shaman, stabbing it with his broken sword, but the attack proves ineffective. Just as Subaru faces imminent danger, Roswell intervenes, defeating the shaman and the remaining Maybast. This also removes the curses that afflicted Subaru. Back at the mansion, Subaru wakes up in the room with Rem by his side. He encourages Rem to keep living for the future, rather than dwelling on the past and feeling sorry for herself. His words have a profound impact on her, and she falls in love with him. That night, Subaru asks Amelia to go on a date with him to the village the next day, and she agrees, marking a brighter turn of events for Subaru. A month after the Maybast incident, Subaru and Amelia return from a morning outing with the kids from Arlem Village. However, their peaceful time is about to change. Amelia is summoned to the capital as part of the royal election, and they are escorted by Wilhelm van Astria and Felix Argyle. In the capital, Subaru reunites with the fruit merchant and purchases a bag of apples as a token of gratitude. Things take an interesting turn when they encounter Julius Draculius, who gallantly kisses Amelia's hand. Subaru can't help but feel a pang of jealousy. Soon after, they witness a red-headed woman, Priscilla Barriel, being chased by the same three hoodlums who had confronted Subaru in previous timelines. Subaru steps in to help, but the hoodlums flee when Ram appears, searching for Felt, whom Subaru claims was taken by Reinhard. Later, Amelia insists that Subaru does not accompany her to the castle, where the candidates for the upcoming royal election will gather. However, Subaru breaks his promise the next day and hitches a ride to the castle in Priscilla's carriage, posing as her apple servant. When they arrive at the castle, Amelia is shocked to see Subaru with Priscilla, who introduces him as her manservant. As Amelia, along with other royal candidates like Priscilla, Anastasia Hoshin, and Crush Karsten, waits, they are all surprised when Reinhard introduces Feld as the fifth and final candidate, turning the event into a major twist in their journey. Subaru's relentless battle against the unknown continues as he faces death, rebirth, and the ever-elusive truth. But the story is far from over. In our next recap, we'll dive deeper into the mysteries of this parallel world and follow Subaru as he takes on new challenges and confronts even greater foes. Don't miss out on the next chapter of this incredible adventure. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay updated on our thrilling journey through the world of twists, turns, and second chances. Hit that notification bell so you'll be the first to know when the next recap drops. Until then, see you in the next thrilling episode.